Allied forces blast through Kuwait towards the capital. An Iraqi Scud attack kills American soldiers in Saudi Arabia, and tens of thousands of Iraqis are surrendering in the desert. This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting live with American forces in Dhahran, Saudi Arabia. Good evening. Saddam Hussein tonight ordered his forces to withdraw from Kuwait. Baghdad radio says the decision was made, quote, in accordance with the Soviet peace plan, unquote. That's a plan already rejected by President Bush and the American allies. Baghdad radio quoted an official spokesman as saying that in compliance with Saddam Hussein's decision, and again I quote, orders were issued to the armed forces for an organized withdrawal to the positions in which they were before the 1st of August 1990, unquote. First reaction from the White House, the war goes on. Let's go down to correspondent Bob Fall at the United Nations. Well, we've been unable to get Bob Fall up at the UN for just the moment, so let's go to the White House for the reaction to this announcement that Saddam Hussein is now ordering his troops to withdraw from Kuwait. Wyatt?
Dan, as far as the White House is concerned, this offer is going nowhere. White House spokesman Marlin Fitzwater just moments ago said that because this did not involve official contact between Iraq and the United Nations, that quote-unquote the war goes on. What came out of here, Dan, a very clear signal that Iraq can do as it's tried to do this afternoon, and that is surrender again on Soviet terms all they like, but it won't matter here at the White House. Fitzwater reiterated that the president's ultimatum of last Friday is still on the table, but he interpreted that to mean that Iraq must now publicly say yes to all 12 United Nations resolutions in addition to pulling their troops out of Kuwait. Dan, there's just a simple feeling here that now that the war has been joined, now that that Scud was launched today, 500 oil wells on fire, there'll be no negotiations, no benefit of the doubt. Dan?
Again to Bob Fall at the United Nations.
Dan, the president of the Security Council, when told of the Baghdad radio report, said it was welcome news indeed. If it's true, hinted the Security Council would meet soon thereafter. But the Saudi ambassador said it is too little, too late, and a Kuwaiti representative said, let's not get too excited over something we hear over Baghdad radio. Earlier in the day, there was a great deal of activity here when the Soviet ambassador said Iraq would favor the coalition proposals for a ceasefire, but after a short informal session, it became clear the government of Iraq could do no such thing, could only second what had been worked out in Moscow, nothing more, leaving a slightly miffed British ambassador to conclude that the Russian ambassador didn't know what he was talking about. Dan?
Thanks, Bob. Could be the reason that Saddam has ordered the pullout has something to do with the military situation on the ground. David Martin at the Pentagon.
Well, Dan, the U.S. Army is now carrying 6 Iraqi Army divisions as destroyed by the fighting of the past 2 days. But the Iraqi Army can still retreat. The Iraqi Army is not surrounded. It can go north if it wants to. The bridges are down. Air power could do great damage to them. But officials here have said repeatedly the U.S. is not going to shoot retreating Iraqi soldiers in the back.
Tonight's ploy by Saddam Hussein followed another day of Allied advances on the ground and terrorist counterattacks by the Iraqis. With Allied forces advancing steadily through Iraq and Kuwait, Saddam Hussein struck back with his terror weapon today. A Scud missile tore through a building housing American soldiers in eastern Saudi Arabia. The casualties were more than double what Americans have suffered in the invasion itself. In Iraq and Kuwait, 4 Americans officially are listed as killed, 21 wounded. In Kuwait, the armies and Marines that rolled in with no resistance yesterday were slowed today by artillery and tank fire. The route was strewn with wrecked Iraqi tanks and guns. Along the road north toward Kuwait City, many landmines lay unexploded. The U.S. command said the Allies have destroyed 270 tanks, including some of Iraq's best.
I wouldn't say it's one-sided. I would just say that we're enjoying success where we're meeting the enemy, we're defeating the enemy.
More than 500 oil wells are on fire in Kuwait, half the wells in the whole country. And the Iraqis are taking out their vengeance on Kuwait and its people.
Additionally, numerous facilities throughout throughout Kuwait City are being systematically destroyed. Reports of atrocities of the worst sort are continuing to come in through reports.
Enemy prisoners continued to surrender in droves, 18,000 in 2 days. Allied commanders said they were not surprised.
I think we're gratified by the number of prisoners being taken. This, after all, is what the alliance had planned for with the conditioning of the battlefield over the last few weeks.
In the Persian Gulf, Iraq fired a Chinese-made Silkworm missile at the U.S. battleship Missouri. The British shot it down. The Scud missile attack here in Saudi Arabia a few hours ago killed at least 12 U.S. servicemen and wounded 25. 40 others are still missing. Harry Smith was the first reporter on the scene.
A routine Monday night Scud warning was not followed by the usual Patriot missile intercept. The alarm was followed by disaster.
One of these ambulances has to go up there. Oh, the people are up here.
A flimsy warehouse converted into a barracks for U.S. Army personnel was blown to bits. Inside, more than 100 American soldiers.
I knew right away that this was a direct Scud hit, just judging by the way that it shook the ground and by the enormously loud explosion of the score.
Big fire, and then I heard boom.
Fully 20 minutes after the attack, chaos reigned. Ambulances clogged the single alleyway leading to the compound. For some of the wounded, the only way out was medevac choppers. The time between warning and impact was short, perhaps 2 minutes. The U.S. military says it appeared the Scud may have broken up in flight, but clearly the results suggest otherwise.
It's total. The whole thing's gone. Everybody in it is either wounded or dead.
Never before had an Iraqi Scud hit an American target. The attitude towards Scuds in this part of the world had become blasé.
And so I think people were just taking it for granted that they weren't going to get harmed or one of these Scuds was going to get through and actually make contact. And today, unfortunately, it did.
Baghdad radio hailed its heroic missile corps, while U.S. forces stood shocked by Saddam Hussein's act of terrorism. Harry Smith, CBS News, Saudi Arabia.
The military people think of the rear, the main battleground, and then the far forward. The Scud hit in the rear. Now, as for the main battlegrounds, think of them as west and east in the southern Iraqi desert and then up against the Persian Gulf. It's not quiet on either front. On the western front, where Allied forces are punching into Iraq, Scott Pelley is there.
On the second day of the invasion, U.S. and French forces moved rapidly into the Iraqi homeland, advancing under cover of a massive artillery barrage. The thrust came west of Kuwait, part of the effort to cut off enemy supplies and reinforcements. All along the Western Front, resistance was light. Here, there were no U.S. casualties the first 24 hours.
I'm very surprised. Right now, I thought that they would put up more of a fight.
Iraqi soldiers surrendered en masse. By the second morning, they were being taken in caravans of buses. The advance was slowed while French and American troops stopped to search and arrest the enemy soldiers. The Iraqis were under Allied artillery bombardment for hours, and when the French infantry moved through this sector, they said the Iraqis threw down their arms without firing a single shot.
No war. No war.
Mabidi war.
No war.
But these are far from Saddam's best troops. This frontline force has little training and poor equipment. Many of the men did not have boots to wear. Most were armed with outdated, broken-down weapons. Iraqis killed in battle are being buried by U.S. soldiers. This soldier was killed in an air attack while apparently carrying food to the front. The U.S. is preparing for thousands of enemy dead.
We'll have to get approval from theater commander in order to open a mass grave. But in my opinion, that would be the best way to handle it.
In the first 2 days, heavy artillery was the key to withering Iraqi resolve. Howitzers were constantly on the move north.
Talk to me, talk to me!
Despite the speed, soldiers were warned repeatedly to sight their targets with care. The smallest error here could bring shells down on friendly forces. In the first day, the invasion of the Iraqi sector ran far ahead of schedule. But as the guns were pulled deeper into enemy territory, some soldiers became apprehensive. The initial surge was swift, but the toughest battles may lie ahead. Scott Pelley, CBS News, with Allied forces in southern Iraq.
That's the western part of the main battlefield. Now for the eastern part, inside Kuwait. CBS News reporter Bob McEwen is moving up with an Allied force headed straight for Kuwait City.
Allied armor rolled up the highway towards Kuwait City today, 24 hours into the invasion, 25 miles down, and 45 to go. This attack force of Saudis, Kuwaitis, Omanis, and U.S. Marines encountered little resistance for the first half of their journey, but a burned-out Iraqi tank marked the beginning of a more dangerous stretch of road. In the area, towns such as this one, with pockets of Iraqi resistance and snipers, and a few miles ahead, enemy artillery, sending in round after round, hitting houses nearby and pinning down the convoy. As Saudi tanks moved into position, U.S. jets worked the skies, launching flares to distract ground-air missiles, high-tech vultures searching for their prey. As the battle continued at the front, at the border, vehicles continued to pour into Kuwait, including buses to bring back prisoners of war. And along the route north, the desert was a massive minefield, being swept by Kuwaitis in helicopters and Saudis on foot. All afternoon, the jets kept circling overhead, the artillery coming in and going out. As the second day of the ground war came to an end, the troops hunkered down here along the highway, hope that this will turn out to be just a rest stop on their road to Kuwait City. In addition to the constant rumble of bombardment here on the Eastern Front tonight, there's been something else to think about. A ghostly glow from burning oil wells in the northern sky, leading the Allies to wonder what exactly they'll find along the road to Kuwait City tomorrow. Dan?
Bob, earlier you talked about the ground rumbling and shaking underneath you as the guns from the battleships Missouri and Wisconsin offshore fired. Has there been any of that firing during the night?
The last artillery barrage came in here about dusk. We haven't heard anything from the Gulf, from the warships. What we have seen, in addition to that glow you saw a moment ago, is a tremendous light show out towards the north. We've seen flares lighting up the desert. We've seen tracers. We've seen Allied rockets going over our heads. We've seen a tank battle down a couple of miles in front of us. The Iraqis are that close at this point. There are burning oil wells behind me as well, as you can see. Two of them have been burning for a couple of days now. A third, which is inland a bit, is obscured by smoke right now. It erupted tonight. We're not exactly sure whether this is one of the hundreds of wells that are alleged to have been set by the Iraqis in the past few days, or whether that was brought aflame in some other way. Along the highway towards the front today, we bumped into a battalion, a tank battalion of Kuwaitis. They told us they were going off to rout some Iraqis out of that oil field, and it is possible that that third fire, which you may or may not see at the moment, came about in that way.
Bob McEwen, live from deep inside Kuwait. Now just above, in front of where Bob McEwen is, the U.S. Marines have been engaged for some hours in a furious battle against a counter-attacking Iraqi armor division. This special edition of the CBS Evening News, live from Saudi Arabia, continues in a moment with the latest on the strategy from the Pentagon and the White House.
Now you can ask Angela Lansbury about Bufferin.
Angela, for a miserable backache, is Bufferin really strong aspirin?
Oh, my, yes. I've learned extra strength Bufferin has the strongest dose of aspirin you can buy, 1,000 milligrams.
Miss Lansbury, how can Bufferin be so strong if it has buffers?
I wondered myself, till I heard that the buffers don't weaken it. They just help prevent aspirin stomach upset. I depend on Bufferin.
Shouldn't you discover the strength of Bufferin?
Ask me what counts most after 40 years in the car business, and I don't have to think twice. 1, the minivans. We invented them. 2, driver's airbags in every car we build in this country. What do we do for an encore? Put them together. Minivans with a driver's side airbag. Nobody else is doing it. You still have to use your seatbelt with a minivan airbag, but it will save lives. A lot of lives.
You know, you get so much more out of cold mornings when you've got energy. That's why I eat grape nuts. And I found a great new way to make it hot. Just pour your grape nut cereal, add milk, and microwave it for 1 minute. You've got this warm, hearty taste that feels so good, and a natural energy source to help keep you going. So, even if it's a cold morning, hot grape nuts helps make it a good one. Try it yourself.
Hot or cold, breakfast with Post Grape Nuts helps keep you going strong all morning long.
We want to make clear that throughout our coverage, we are sensitive to the safety of American and Allied troops. We try to report nothing that will be of military use to the Iraqis. What we report in our own exclusive reports from the battlefront and from pool coverage is all aimed at trying to tell you at home what you want to know, what you need to know, without endangering lives over here. With that in mind, CBS News correspondent David Martin has the latest war overview from the Pentagon. David?
Dan, officials here say that the campaign schedule is still about 12 hours ahead of schedule. But today, I think, was clearly a tougher day of fighting than yesterday, particularly for the Marines and U.S. Army units who were fighting in Kuwait. The Iraqi Army committed some of its armored reserves, and the Marines and the U.S. Army had to take them on. They did well and are moving ahead, but there was an engagement there, which was, I think, the first real tank battle of the war.
David, I'll pause for just a second because we thought we were getting a late report in. In fact, the reports from the battle scene indicate that the Marines have done very well against that Iraqi armored division. And for the Iraqis to bring an armored division out of their holes into the open where it can be hit upon by air power, and the Marines to hold against that is no small accomplishment. What should we be looking for on the two main battlefronts, southern Iraq and inside Kuwait, over the next 8 to 12 hours?
Well, inside Kuwait, the thing to look for is the assault on Kuwait City itself, the attempt to liberate the city. That's going to involve house-to-house fighting. Out west in Iraq, I think we're still probably 24 to 36 hours away from this great tank battle that everybody is anticipating between all of the U.S. armored forces that are inside Iraq and the Republican Guards, which are still hunkered down in southern Iraq. Dan?
Thanks, David. Saddam Hussein's latest maneuver, this announcing that he'd ordered his troops out of Kuwait, came as President Bush said the war was going well, and the president cautioned against overconfidence. White House correspondent Wyatt Andrews has late reaction there. Wyatt?
Dan, the president gave what in effect was his first report card to the nation today, reporting that things were going well. But he spoke just hours before that Scud hit the Army barracks outside of Dhahran, and almost as if he predicted or foresaw that attack, Mr. Bush predicted that the Allies would suffer some setbacks.
The liberation of Kuwait is on course and on schedule. We have the initiative. We intend to keep it. We must guard against euphoria. There are battles yet to come and casualties to be borne.
Despite his appeal for caution, the president is obviously confident. He's already talking about what comes next.
And our success in the Gulf will bring with it not just a new opportunity for peace and stability in a critical part of the world, but a chance to build a new world order based upon the principles of collective security and the rule of law.
As it turned out, the entire national security team was briefing the president at the very moment that the Scud attack on the Army barracks was launched. The White House later termed that attack tragic, but saw it as a bit of luck that will not alter the outcome of the war. Dan?
Thanks, Wyatt. Coming up next on tonight's CBS Evening News live from Saudi Arabia, we'll be checking in Baghdad. Correspondent Betsy Aaron and talking about this latest maneuver of Saddam's.
The reason two Oldsmobiles made the 1991 Consumers Digest Best Buys list is based on the same philosophy Oldsmobiles are built by. Exceptional value.
This is the new generation of Olds.
This is Jupiter. Not exactly what you imagined, huh? Same atmosphere, same language, same hairdos. But believe me, Jupiter's an advanced civilization. Just look at the menu. There's beef tenderloin at just 179 calories. That's hardly astronomical. Well, one small steak for me, one giant barbecue for mankind. Beef, real food in Jupiter, Florida.
I thought my husband Dan was perfectly healthy, but the doctor said his cholesterol level was 218. So we changed to a healthier diet, including no cholesterol Mazola, America's leading corn oil.
In a clinical study, a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet, including Mazola, reduced cholesterol an average of 17%.
Did Dan's cholesterol come down?
You bet. 100% pure Mazola corn oil. Together, we're beating cholesterol.
Doctors know there's a flaw in eggs. They're high in cholesterol, and diets high in cholesterol and fat can contribute to heart disease. Fleischmann's Egg Beaters are 99% real egg with 0 cholesterol and 0 fat. Egg Beaters, eggs without the flaw.
Chris, Vicky, Bud, Ron, and Hope. Teamwork. That's what works at News Channel 5. More news, more experience, more often.
Saddam Hussein calls it the mother of all battles. In Washington, Saddam's moves, even his latest supposed order pull out of Kuwait, are viewed more as a motherlode of miscalculations. Mark Phillips reports.
One by one, the great Gulf gambler has played his cards. His hand may not have been as strong as first feared, but those who have studied him say he isn't finished yet.
I'd never want to play cards with this guy as my partner. He tried the Israeli card, and last week he tried the Soviet card, and that was a failure. The only card he has left to play is to use chemical weapons and to commit extraordinary acts of violence in the hope that somehow we will overreact and that will win him some grace in the next world.
But Saddam still seems concerned with this world, and unconstrained by political pressure at home, and seemingly unconstrained by conscience, he can sacrifice armies. He can put lands to the torch.
When he is backed into a corner, he can become dangerous to the extreme and really lash out. And I believe he is now in that lash out mode.
In his radio address as the ground war began, Saddam claimed the mother of all battles would be a more even fight. For the first time, though, Saddam acknowledged the possibility of defeat. And this man who has been compared to Hitler may be capable of Hitlerian actions.
I always see an analogy here with the closing days of World War II as the Allies moved deeper into Germany and saw what Hitler had done, the mood stiffened. And I think when the television finally gets into Kuwait City and the world's press starts unearthing what this army has done for the past 6 months, the mood is going to harden even more.
There may be, however, one element of the Hitler comparison that doesn't hold true.
Unlike Hitler, to whom he has been likened, who suicided at the end, I believe Saddam desperately wants to survive, and survive with a portion of his power base still retained.
The successful gambler, though, knows when to fold a losing hand, and that may be behind today's withdrawal offer. For Saddam, this has been a quest to find a way out that preserves some sense of honor, and getting out with at least part of his army would provide that. And as Saddam showed today, even in defeat, he's still capable of making the Allies pay for their victory in blood. Mark Phillips, CBS News, Washington.
Back in the United States tonight, a new poll shows overwhelming support holding up for the ground war. That story and more when the CBS Evening News continues live from Saudi Arabia.
My husband's a doctor, but he's not the only health specialist in this family. I buy the healthiest food I can and cook it in pan.
Even healthy foods like fish can be loaded with fat and cholesterol cooked in butter. Just look at all the fat and cholesterol in butter compared to Pam, the healthier choice.
And if you think healthy is boring, you haven't tasted my salmon steaks. Right, Doc?
No Stick Pam cooking spray is naturally light. It's the healthier way to cook.
It's not just a car, it's your freedom.
Getting a thorough tune-up done these days takes two things: the right equipment and someone who knows how to use it.
See Mr. Goodwrench wherever you see these signs.
Our volunteer of the year is Doris Craig.
It's terrific how Depend changes people's lives. And there's a terrific change in Depend elastic leg undergarments. It's called Absol-Block, a unique leakage protection system that locks in 25% more. It'll do wonders for your confidence and get you back into life.
Thank you so much.
Get back into life with Depend.
With Absol-Block protection.
If you buy this new Oldsmobile and have a burning desire to haul 5,000 pounds through the desert in the middle of summer, go ahead. That's how we tested it.
This is the new generation of Olds.
I'm Paula Zahn.
I'm Harry Smith in Saudi Arabia. Tomorrow, the latest developments from the Persian Gulf War.
Plus 30-something's Peter Horton on CBS This Morning.
U.S. and allied forces have gone into battle not only well prepared and well equipped for combat, but armed with overwhelming support from the American people. The support for U.S. forces was strong going in. The support continues for forcing Saddam Hussein out. Bruce Morton reports these feelings run wide and deep on the home front.
Americans want Saddam Hussein out. A CBS News New York Times poll last night asked, even though the United Nations authorized the use of force only to get Iraq out of Kuwait, should the U.S. continue fighting until Saddam is removed from power? A solid majority said yes, get him out.
If he could ever come back to get you, he's going to come back to get you. You know, what I call ghetto fighting. Hey, you fight to the end.
Oh, I think we should take him out of power entirely.
Even if removing Saddam costs several thousand additional American lives, those who want him out said it would be worth that cost.
We don't wish to have any casualties. We expect them, and we can't stop at this point because we've taken a few casualties.
3/4 of our sample thought President Bush had done the right thing in starting the ground war instead of waiting longer to see if bombing alone would win. And by an even bigger margin, our sample thought the U.S. and Iraq were so far apart, a negotiated settlement was not possible.
No, there's enough diplomacy. I think if they would have waited any longer, more Kuwaiti citizens would have been butchered, mass murdered.
The people we polled think the war is going well so far, not surprising since the military briefers have said that. But our sample knows that that could change. A majority thought the war would last weeks or months. Only about 1 person in 5 thought it would be over in a matter of days.
I personally think that by the end of March, the war will be pretty much over with.
Asked if the war was worth several thousand American lives, our sample said yes. Men thought the sacrifice worthwhile by better than 2 to 1. Women were evenly divided.
People look to us to lead, and I do think we did the right thing, yes.
Given this strong approval of the war, it's not surprising our sample thinks President Bush is doing well. 87% approve of the job he's doing as president. That's the same approval rating Harry Truman got after VE Day, after the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II.
I think Bush is doing all right. I don't have any problems with the man. I don't think there was any other way he could have avoided the war.
People we polled were less happy with Soviet President Mikhail Gorbachev, asked if his efforts to negotiate a settlement were meant at bringing about peace or at increasing Soviet influence in the Gulf. Our sample lopsidedly said Gorbachev was seeking not peace, but Soviet power. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Washington.
A Scud missile has killed Americans inside Saudi Arabia. Americans are engaged in considerable fighting inside Kuwait and inside Iraq. We'll bring you updates throughout the evening on this CBS station, and I'll be back as part of a War Update edition of America Tonight later on. Now, for those stations leaving us now, we say good night. For those continuing with our special 1-hour edition of the CBS Evening News, see you in a moment.
Good evening, I'm Vicki Yates.
And I'm Chris Clark. Coming up next on News Channel 5's 6 o'clock report.
A surprise.
Campbell reacts to the latest news from the Middle East. I'm Craig Owensby live at the fort. Our report is coming up.
What's in the plans from Meharry Hospital now that its merger with General Hospital isn't likely to happen?
And we'll celebrate Chris Clark's silver anniversary in a special report.
Which they have not let me see, so it's going to be a surprise to me as well as you. And we'll also have the story of a police score a major drug bust in Nashville.
News Channel 5 6 o'clock report is next. Join us.
Here's bullish news.